Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 36 of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, the NASCAR playoffs get started this weekend from Darlington. We'll preview it, plus get the latest on what's going on in David's world as he's balancing out racing in the Xfinity and Cup Series. Plus, we'll have our news and notes and our Ask David segment at the end of today's show. As always, Let's Go Racing is presented by Whataburger. Don't forget that every Whataburger is made fresh, served hot, and prepared just like you like it. Want jalapenos and cheese on that? No problem. They've got you covered. Whataburger, proud to serve it hot and fresh 24 hours a day. David Starr joins us right now. David, we have a lot to discuss with the playoffs, arguably the most exciting time of the year on the NASCAR schedule. But before we do that, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention some of the stuff that's just going on in our country right now. If we didn't take time to remember the 13 servicemen and women that lost their lives in Afghanistan, and then what's going on in Louisiana with this Hurricane Ida, that we know of one death at this point, and still find out some more information there. Just a tough time for a lot of folks. David, we're certainly thinking of them.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. The men and women that make up our armed forces in our in the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. I mean, just, to give that ultimate sacrifice, give your life to fight for our freedom. It's just, it's amazing that the men and women of our armed forces will lay down for our country, will fight for our country. And it's just, when you heard about us losing those men and women last week, was just sad. I'm still kind of sad about it, and just sad to see everything that's going on over there in Afghanistan, and for the Americans that are still there and trying to get back to America, and just the awful hurricane that hit south of New Orleans there. Just feel bad for people. Almost feel guilty, sitting here with you guys, but man, it's just, it's been a great weekend of exciting racing in NASCAR, but, there's sometimes there's just stuff a lot bigger more important than that, you know what I mean? And you just mentioned two of them, Tyler. So, but thank God for the men and women, our armed forces that fight for our freedom and this great country we live in, and for us guys to be able to do our podcast, build race cars, or whatever it is that we love, you know what I mean? Just so thankful to be an American. Makes you proud, but just sad that, we lost those people last week. Still sad about it.
Yeah, certainly so. Dominic Aragon of the RacingExperts.com is here as well. Dom, how we doing?
Hey, Tyler, doing pretty good. Just battling a little bit of allergies, so I probably look tired. I am a little tired, and I'm battling allergies. But, hey, nonetheless, always a fun time filming the show with you guys, and just kind of echoing and piggybacking what you guys are saying. Definitely my thoughts and prayers are with everybody, not only affected with everything going on in Afghanistan, but with everything going on in the Gulf Coast as well.
Yes, certainly so. We're thinking of everybody, and our best goes out there to those folks in these circumstances. But guys, what a busy weekend it was for David in Daytona. Let's start there. David, you gear up for that Xfinity race on Friday, and you don't really get much going before the rain came down. That hands you a very busy Saturday, and I think with both races, you were pretty satisfied with how Saturday went. Tell us about your weekend there in Daytona.
Man, I still pinch myself that I get to race at Daytona. Growing up as a kid, you always read about the Daytona 500 and going to Daytona International Speedway. And man, I drive through the tunnel there, man, and I'm still just very thankful and blessed, and sometimes overwhelmed that I'm getting to do what we love to do, but what a great weekend. Friday night came, and I got in my beautiful looking Whataburger Toyota Supra, and man, that Whataburger car, I love it. It's awesome. Just looks fast. It's a cool look. And speaking of Whataburger, man, what a great day I had today. My wife's not listening, but I woke up this morning. I was hungry. I drove over to Whataburger and ordered me a number 7. I got a Whataburger Junior. Then I backed it up at lunch today, went back over to Whataburger across the street from the Texas Motor Speedway. And you know what, well, we have eaten lunch several times ourselves, and ordered me a #1, man. So man, I had a great day, breakfast and lunch at Whataburger. But man, you know, when the race started Friday night, you know, our Whataburger Toyota Supra was going backwards quick. And you know, a lot of times at Daytona, my strategy, you know, I got a strategy how I try to run our super speedway races over the years. And, you know, lots of times I just kind of, you know, the lead group, I kind of slowed my car down a little bit, leaving about 6 or 7 cars behind me. That way I can have a little bit of real estate in case the big one happens early on. I can try to navigate through it, you know, when you got a little bit of real estate separation. But man, I noticed in the 20 or 19 laps that we ran, my car was running on all 8 cylinders, but it wasn't running right. And I looked down at my gauges, and my gauges were going haywire, man. They were reading, they wasn't reading, and the engine was would have a hesitation to it. And I knew we had some kind of electrical problem going on, and was really talking back and forth with my crew, discussing what the problem was, and then trying to, you know, not lose the draft. And then the rains came, and it was kind of sad that the rains came, but it turned out to be a blessing for us because, you know, we did have an electrical problem. And when they canceled the race Friday night and postponed it till 12:30 Saturday afternoon, man, it just worked out to our favor because we was able to come back in Saturday morning. All the teams were, and open up the garages where we put our cars. We put our cars out of the weather there at Daytona in the garages. So Saturday morning, my crew came in, and NASCAR let us crank up the motors and warm up everything. And we couldn't crank up our engine, but was able to diagnose the problem. We had a short in the starter solenoid, and they figured it out. So we never cranked up our engine because we couldn't crank it up. Friday night when the race got rained out, I come down pit road. It was raining, and I was coasting down pit road. And right when I came to a complete stop, one of my guys was at the car, and I said, "Hey, let me crank it up real quick. Let's just listen to the motor." You know, it wouldn't crank up. In fact, I had some sparks. It was sparking from underneath the dash. And so we was able to diagnose the problem Saturday morning. And once the race started, when you have a rain delay, and us drivers getting in the car Saturday afternoon, and they turn the caution light back on, and we pull off pit road, you're going to have 2 or 3 pace laps before they start the race. Well, we ended up coming down pit road, and my team took the side window out. They jumped inside the race car, and they disconnected the starter, disconnected the power, our power source to the starter, and a solenoid wire going to the starter. They disconnected it, taped it up, and man, that thing ran great. And it took us a little bit. We was able to. They dropped the green flag to start the race, and when they dropped the green flag, I was just getting into turn 1, and I don't know how we did it, but we was able to stay on the lead lap, and I think a caution came. I mean, they wasn't that far behind me. I was going to get lapped, and the caution came out. We was able to regroup and line back up, and man, just having that rain delay for us, really, we overcome some adversity there. So it was pretty awesome.
So how about the Cup race? Tell us about that.
Well, man, I'm not really. I've been telling you a lot about what was going on. The Cup race was awesome, but man, the Xfinity race was good. I just kind of hanging out in the middle of the pack. I didn't want to get up in the lead pack. I could have, but I just, was just kind of holding back. And it came down to about 20 laps to go. And then they said 15 laps to go. And I remember radioing to my spotter and saying, "Hey, it's time to go to work." What I meant by that is time to go to the front, and you know, when you have a race that's 100 lap long at Talladega or Daytona, you know, I hate wrecking on lap 10 or lap 30 or lap 40. So I try to work it out where I'm going to be there at the end. And look, I'm going to charge at the end. If I end up wrecking with 5-6 laps to go, so be it. I gave up my team. I gave myself, gave our partners, our sponsors, Whataburger. We gave ourselves a shot to try to win a race, you know. And man, we were charging to the front. And man, I don't know what car it was, but coming out of the trial with about 9 laps to go, I had about 7-8 cars lined up behind me, the pushers that help you navigate the draft. And I come off the tri-oval. I think there were 9 laps to go, and there was a car down on the apron blowing up. Smoke was going everywhere. You could barely see coming out of the tri-oval, getting into turn 1. And I looked in my rearview mirror just real quick, and man, a lot of the people behind me were getting off the gas. And in fact, some people in front of me were getting off the gas, and I was able to navigate past them. And I kind of took my foot off the gas pedal because I knew there's no way they're gonna throw a caution. Well, they never threw a caution, so I kind of lost that lead draft, but I lost the people behind me because they really thought, everybody thought they're going to throw a caution. And man, with, you know, I was able to catch up to the pack with about 2 laps to go, and man, I really thought we wasn't even going to have a shot at the win. And I was able to suck back up to that lead pack with about 2 laps to go. And man, I was able to pass 6 or 7 of them at the end and finish 14th. But I was disappointed because I didn't have my dancing partners behind me pushing me. You know what I mean? So I was frustrated with the way the race ended. But you know, when you're frustrated with the 14th place finish, I guess that's a pretty good night for you. You know. Pretty good race for you. So it wasn't bad. We finished the race. The car didn't have a scratch on it. And hey, we finished 14th. And but man, guys, when you go to Talladega and Daytona, I have a shot at winning, and I had bigger aspirations for better than 14th place finish. I can assure you of that, but we'll take it.
Oh, absolutely. And you just seemed like you had a lot of fun, Dave. We talked on the show last week. We were joking that we could not wipe the smile from your face talking about getting to run that cup race in Daytona either. And I mean, was it all more than you could have ever hoped for, getting to run Daytona, double duty, Xfinity and Cup Series in the same weekend?
Man, it's always cool racing Daytona. All the years we raced there in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, but you know, I've never ran a Cup race at Daytona International Speedway. You know, and that was my first one, believe it or not, after 24 years. You know, but man, that was exciting, and you know, with a lot at stake. You know, we talked about it last week for a long time. Just, you know, who's going to be in the top 16 for who's going to make the final 16 of the chase, and then NASCAR announced that they were putting a smaller restrictor plate on the Cup cars. So there was a lot of unknowns, you know what I mean? And hell, it was unknown for me. I never run a Cup race there. So anyway, man, it was so much fun. The energy and the people, it was awesome, you know, and just all the people that was there. God, it was so much fun. But man, you know, they dropped the green flag, and man, our car was pretty awesome. I was drafting with 5, 6, 7 cars back there and just trying to fill out the race car. And man, I noticed coming off turn 4 and off turn 2, I couldn't hold my race car down behind the car in front of me. And I'm talking about when you come off the corners at, you know, 190, whatever the speeds we were running, you know, my car would slide out about a car width and a half. And, you know, then I'd suck back in, you know, to keep the people behind me. But I noticed as we ran, it kept getting worse and worse. And I mean, it was getting really bad. And I was trying to figure out how to hold the car down. And I was holding it down so bad a couple of times it almost spun the car out. But unfortunately, I couldn't hold the car down coming off the corners. And the 2 or 3 people behind me were able to close that gap and kind of hung me out to dry. And I lost the lead draft, and I ended up losing a lap. But we could tell that the front of the race car was too high. We were getting too much air underneath the front of the race car because we didn't have no practice, you know. But man, once my crew chief, Johnny Bruton, man, he started adjusting on that thing and, man, lowering that front of that car down. He took some rounds out of the back of the car. He lowered the front of the race car, but he also lowered the back of the car. And, man, when I tell you what, man, our car was pretty awesome. But unfortunately, we really thought we were going to be able to get our lap back because there was a lot of stuff going on. But, I never understood all the different circumstances. We never could get back on the lead lap. And, but, man, I had a great time, man. I was drafting and doing all I could do. And, man, that was so much fun. But, I was drafting with BJ McLeod, which we've had on our podcast, and Josh Balicki and some of the others, they drafted behind me for a long time in the race. And, those guys ended up 9th and 10th in the final and, the end results. And I just, after the race, I was talking to Carl. We were pretty frustrated because, man, if we could have just kept ourselves on that lead lap, I really thought we would have had a really, really good finish. But, hey, man, anytime you're complaining about finishing 27th in a cup race, it wasn't too bad, But, man, God, what drama, man. The view I had was unbelievable. I mean, the sparks, the wrecks, just unbelievable. I drove through 2 or 3 wrecks, and I just said, man, people said, man, heck of a job. I said, man, Jesus took the wheel on that deal, dude, because there's no way I just got lucky. But, man, God, what a fun weekend, man. It was just unbelievable. Had a lot of fun, that's for sure.
Speaking of from your perspective, David, you got all these guys going for this last playoff spot, and you're seeing it up close, up front and personal. How do you kind of stay out of the way of sorts? Was your spotter telling you, like, hey, this guy's going for a playoff spot or anything like that? How do you manage not trying to screw something up for somebody else that's trying to get in the playoff and work around all that with so many guys going for that one spot?
Man, Tyler, you brought up a good point there, because man, I'm racing. I mean, I'm racing. I'm there to race, and we get paid to race those cars and do the best we can do, but there is a lot at stake, and I'm not a full-time Cup driver, and I would never want myself, my team, our sponsors to ever be a reason why somebody didn't make the chase or took somebody out that was trying to make the chase or get in the chase. So, you're racing your tail off. It's just common sense. You know what I mean? I never, there was never a point in time in the race that I said, well, I need to be careful around these guys. You know what I mean? I had Kurt Busch back there with us, Cal Larson. I mean, Logano. There was a bunch of them back there that fell back a little bit, were running with us, and I was running in that lead pack at times. And, I raced back there with Austin Dillon a lot, and, but man, we're just racing our tails off. I mean, I'm doing what I know how to do. And, as long as you do what we know how to do, it ain't no big deal. You know what I mean? So, I wasn't making any drastic moves, trying to finish in the top 10 of a stage finish, but just racing. And, me and my spotter, we knew what we wanted to do. We wanted to finish the race, and, we had a good race car, so we wanted to race, and we did. But we didn't come close to taking any of the top guys out that were trying to make the chase. But they were definitely, we run side by side with them for a while, but anyway, you can't worry about that kind of stuff, but it's in the back of your mind, you don't want to do anything stupid. And, we just do what you know how to do. It all works out. You know what I mean? But, man, I wasn't the ones making crazy moves, but, man, I seen, golly, with the package and the restrictor plate that Cup cars are running, they slowed them down even more for this race. And it was really unknown how the cars were going to race. But, man, I seen a ton of blocking. There was a lot of give and take, people trying to squeeze themselves up into the outside lane when there was a car there wasn't really much of a hole. And, the guy was coming up anyway. I saw a lot of give and take, and I saw a lot of people banging each other, against each other, hitting each other side by side on the straightaway. But, man, I just knew, man, it was intense. The intensity was unbelievable. But when those big wrecks happened, I wasn't surprised because of the way people were racing, man. It was nuts, So, but there was a lot at stake. Y'all seen it.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, one of the things I think about is Tyler Reddick. This was a guy that, his car looked like it was just done, left for dead, and he finds a way to finish sixth and advance in the playoff. I mean, that was almost as impressive, David, as Ryan Blaney winning the whole race. I couldn't believe what Tyler Reddick did to stay alive and get that car to sixth place finish to advance to go ahead and make the playoff and send Austin Dillon home like that.
Man, one of the best performances of the year, I would say, Dave.
Yeah, what's interesting about that deal, Tyler Reddick's car was tore up, and we had about 5 people drafting. I was leading our pack of 5 people, and Tyler Reddick was out there running by himself. His car was damaged. And my goal was to we got 5 cars running together. You got one car by himself, especially one that's tore up. You just draft on by him, and I could see him. He was going left and right. We were about 50 yards back, 40 yards back, and I could see him going left, right. And he was telling me was help me. You know what I mean? And the closer I got to him, he was being sporadic with the car, left, right. And he was saying, "Hey, please help me." And my spotter said, "Hey man, I had to trick him, go high and go low. And y'all are going to blow by him, and one of the coolest things one of the things that I did was I could have blew right past him, and I went up behind him and bumped him. And we actually had a 6-car draft, and I felt like that myself and the people that were drafting behind me, that we helped Tyler Reddick. We helped him because we pushed him. We pushed him for a lot of laps right after end, and I felt like that helped him a whole lot because his car was by himself, man. He was going backwards, and we were making ground up on the field, and I felt like that helped him from losing spots on the racetrack, So I never heard, and I never talked to him after the race, but I really felt like he was going to come over and thank us for what we did for him. You know what I mean? And I just thought, it was the right thing to do. I mean, I knew he was fighting to stay in the chase, and I could see what he was doing. He was saying, "Please help me, please help us." And and if I was in that situation with a damaged race car, and I had a pack of 4 or 5 cars coming up on me, I'd have been doing the same thing, going back and forth to say, "Hey man, help me. And it all worked out. I felt like that we helped him make the playoffs.
That is wild, to say the least.
Unbelievable, man. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and then the other story of it too, with Ryan Blaney getting the win, back-to-back wins. I think we would all say, David, and Dominic, I bet you'd agree with this too. Ryan Blaney hasn't had the best car the last 2 weeks, but yet here he is finding his way to victory circle, going into the playoff with some momentum, his 3rd win. How about flipping on a switch? Ryan Blaney's looking really good right now.
Oh, he's looking excellent. I mean, this is his first multi-win season, and this is the first time in his career that he's won back-to-back Cup Series races. And we always make the joke that Ryan Blaney's like a Ricky Rudd of this generation, 1 win per year, and that's no longer the case. I think Ryan Blaney and that 12th team, Team Penske, Dave, have a lot of momentum entering these NASCAR playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, David, there's no reason to think that they can't win the championship. They're racing as well as anybody right now.
Man, you're talking about Roger Penske. Are we talking about Roger Penske? I mean,
yes.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can never count out Roger Penske. Ryan Blaney. I mean, you just can't. You can't. Brad Keselowski, Joey. I mean, that organization, even though they haven't really been the powerhouse of the season, man, they're all in the chase. And man, you never know who's gonna. I don't know if you call it peaking, but timing is working out right for Roger Penske. You see Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney. Those guys they got some strong cars here lately. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if there's ever a time you want to have strong cars, it's going into the playoffs, and I'm not surprised by Ryan Blaney's performances. I mean, you just watch him week in and week out, man. He's got a fast car, and And Tyler, like you said, he didn't have the fastest car, but man, he's doing what it takes to get the wins, you know. And I don't think he had the fastest car Saturday night, but he put himself in a situation. And man, man, now look at him. I mean, 2 wins, all that momentum, and man, let me tell you, having all that momentum going into the last 10 races of the chase. I mean, I think Ryan Blaney's. You got to consider him as one of the guys that's going to be challenging Kyle Larson. We know he's going to be the contender, the one to beat. But man, you know, you can't count out Ryan Blaney at all, no doubt.
Dominic, it feels like to me very similar to where Chase Elliott was at this point last year, where the Hendrick bunch wasn't great for the regular season, but they started to find some momentum towards the end of the regular season and into the playoff. And then Chase Elliott dominated down the stretch there. Do you think Ryan Blaney could go on a run maybe similar to what Chase did last year?
Oh, I think so. I mean, you can't really rule anything out, right? I mean, even take a look 10 years ago, right? Tony Stewart entered winless, but started picking up some momentum, won the opening race at Chicagoland, went on to win 5 out of the 10 races and won the tiebreaker over Carl Edwards in the playoffs. You really can't rule anything out like that. And especially with Ryan Blaney and Team Penske just really coming on with a lot of momentum the last few weeks. Ryan Blaney going to track where he's historically run okay at, but you got to feel that natural momentum is going to certainly help that team this Sunday night at Darlington.
Yeah. Speaking of Tony Stewart and the year that he had 10 years ago of entering the playoff without any wins and then winning 5 races to win the championship. Guys, if there's one driver right now that hasn't won yet, or maybe only has 1 win that can get momentum and win this championship, I think it's Denny Hamlin. I think Denny still had a great regular season despite not getting to victory lane. David, I still give Denny a good chance to win this championship. I'm not worried that he hasn't won a race yet. We know he's capable of winning every week.
You can never count out Joe Gibbs' organization. You know, I mean, just a solid, strong organization. Denny Hamlin, you can never count him out, man. Just one of the best drivers out there that we watch week in and week out. And the team, the sponsors, just that organization. Denny Hamlin is going to be a threat to winning the championship. And Tyler, you're right, man. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see Denny Hamlin, one of the last 4 standing, going into the last race of the championship in Phoenix. You know, and I mean, Denny's he's a strong contender, and you know, we're talking about Ryan Blaney as well. Denny's performances the last 4 or 5 races, and they're kind of hitting their stride right here when you need to be hitting your stride. You know, so man, it's just it's going to be. Just like Daytona, you know, that there was so much anticipation, so much excitement and unknowns going into Daytona, man. These next 10 races, man, is going to be exciting for our sport. And I love this playoff system. It's just, you know, it's just a lot of unknowns, but man, everybody's curious and excited to watch these races and see who keeps advancing forward, you know.
So here's a stat for you guys. Kyle Larson, regular season champion. He's won 5 races, right? Here's the last 4 regular season champions and how they resulted. Kevin Harvick last year won 9 races total and ended up 5th. Didn't make the final 4. Kyle Busch in 2019, the regular season champion, finished 1st. 2018, Kyle Busch, regular season champion, made the final 4 but finished 4th. And then 2017, Martin Truex Jr. dominated all year, regular season champion. He won the championship. Kyle Larson, how are we feeling about Kyle at this point? It feels like that there has not been any drop-off of some sorts. I know that they haven't won in a couple weeks, but there's the 5 team, David, is still the overwhelming favorites, right?
Man, he has to be. You know what Kyle Larson has done in 2021 and what Hendricks has done. I mean, man, that organization is so strong, and man, you can never count Hendricks Motorsports out of anything. But what Kyle Larson, the performance he's put on, the shows he's put on to the whole racing world, and what he's done is just unbelievable, you know. And And you guys, we all have to agree that Kyle Larson is definitely the favorite going into starting the last 10 races of the championship to crown the champion. He's a favorite. There's no doubt about it. And it's going to take somebody special to knock him off that throne, I believe. And I think he's the guy everybody's shooting to beat. You know what I mean? Because I think he's the one that's when I think he's going to be the last man standing, to be honest with you.
Dominic, of these 10 races, how do they fare for Kyle Larson, historically speaking?
Well, we've seen Kyle Larson do well throughout the playoffs, right? I mean, there's 2 tracks that are not even a part of the playoffs anymore where he has run historically well at, right? Like Dover and Homestead, and those aren't even a part of the 10-race schedule this time around. But you look at some of these races, right? Some of the super speedway races, Larson's been up front, hasn't run well, and finished well, I should say. We only have one of those races, right? Talladega. We have the Roval with one road course. You have a lot of intermediate tracks, and it seems like Kyle Larson, especially early in his career, when we knew he didn't have the best equipment. I mean, Chip Ganassi Racing is still top-tier equipment, but not the level of Hendrick Motorsports. Yet he would still lead a lot of laps at a place like Kansas or the old Charlotte track. And I don't know. You look at how Kyle Larson has run throughout the regular season. You said it best, Tyler. Kyle Larson has not dropped off, and he's still continuing to lead laps. He's still running in the top 10. I mean, we're calling an off week for Kyle Larson a 10th place finish or a 12th place finish. I mean, that team is sitting really well. Hendrick Motorsports as a whole, I mean, we joke, oh yeah, the entire Hendrick organization could make the Final Four, but I think realistically there is a shot you're going to have a couple of those guys duking it out for the championship out in Phoenix. And we think Kyle Larson's got to be one of them, right? He's got that 20-point cushion as the points leader. And as those points continue to reset and as he advances, he's going to still have a pretty good advantage as long as he continues to either hold serve or even expand on that by leading more stages and winning more races.
Well, and I would think, guys, there's a good chance Kyle wins in each different stage of the playoff, each round. I think that you could realistically see Kyle winning 1 out of 3 races in each round and not even worrying about the points to advance to that final. Of those 16 that made the playoff, David, who do you think is the biggest threat to Larson in the 5 team?
Man, it's hard to make that. They're all strong. You know what I mean? We ain't even mentioned Kyle Busch. I mean, that guy's he's just a warrior. You know what I mean? And God, Martin Truex Jr.'s kind of faded a little bit, but it's going to be interesting to see. When early on in the play, not in the playoffs, these last 10 races, we're going to figure out real quick who's going to come to the forefront, and I can't really, Tyler, I guess I'm sitting here talking, but I can't answer that question. You know what I mean? Because there's, we just talked about the Penske cars. I mean, they're looking good, but you talked about Denny Hamlin and the Gibbs cars. They're looking great. I mean, it's just, it's hard to say. I mean, look at Chase Elliott, you can't ever count out Chase Elliott, you know what I mean? And those Hendrick cars. So, man, I can't answer that question. I don't know. I just, I'm excited to see, who's going to challenge Kyle Larson. And I believe he's going to have a lot of challenges. You know what I mean? It's going to be, who's hitting their stride now, and right now with, like we talked about, Ryan Blaney winning 2 races back to back. I mean, right now you got to think that Ryan Blaney's kind of one of those guys that we really didn't really talk about much, but surprisingly or not surprisingly, he's the guy right now in my mind, that's going to challenge Kyle Larson for the championship, So
okay. So you did end up answering it after you said you want to
absolutely.
Okay. Ryan Blaney's your answer. Dominic, give me a name. You can say Blaney too if you want. Who's the biggest threat to Larson's crown?
Yeah, I got to say, I think naturally right now, especially as we look at this first round, right, you got Darlington, Richmond, and Bristol, right? Trio of shorter tracks, especially Richmond and Bristol. I don't know if Blaney would be the strongest. We know Richmond's historically been his worst Cup Series track, but outside of that, you got to figure he's going to advance out of the round of 16 unless some catastrophic things happen. You got to think Blaney, even Joey Logano, right? His only win this year came on the Bristol dirt track, but Joey Logano is so formidable, always in the top 10. Brad Keselowski as well. I think that Team Penske guy is going to be somebody who could get up there and try to battle with Larson a lot more. And I mean, like you said earlier too, David, with the Joe Gibbs Racing Camp, you can't count those guys out. I mean, Denny Hamlin opened the year with 9 straight top 5 finishes. That's unheard of. And you got to feel like there's got to be some momentum coming back with the Gibbs organization. And I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a Gibbs or a Penske team that's going to have the best chance here at derailing a Hendrick Motorsports championship run.
Oh, give me one name, Dom. Give me one.
I got to get, okay. Let's go Ryan Blaney.
Okay. So you two are going to go with Blaney. I think that's
Who
a
you
good
going
choice.
with, Tyler?
Just to be different.
Okay.
You know what? I really don't want to rule out Denny Hamlin. I know that he hasn't won this year, but it's not because he can't or a lack of trying of some sorts. I think Denny could walk into this playoff and win 4 or 5 races and catch some momentum. They're not running bad. They're running up front every week. They're winning stages. If we're talking about a real threat to take down Kyle Larson, I think it's going to take quite the valiant effort. I don't think it's going to take a, a hero's effort of some sorts. I mean, like, think about last year. Chase Elliott, in order to take down Hamlin and Harvick, had to just come alive, right? I mean, he was the best team at the end of the year last year. You're not going to just steal this championship coincidentally. You're going to have to be better for several races. And I think if anyone can flip that switch, I think it's that 11 team of Denny Hamlin, David.
Man, Tyler, I mean, you can't really argue against that. You know what I mean? I think you're, you can't ever argue against the Gibbs organization or Denny Hamlin. It's a championship caliber team right there. And I'm excited to see how it all plays out. You know what I mean? We're all going to be, not surprised or surprised, but it's going to be an exciting last 10 races. That's for sure.
Yeah. Let's give our final 4 picks. Who makes the final 4 of the playoff? Dom, we'll start with you.
Oh, man, you're going to put me on the spot like that. Okay. Let's see how right or wrong I am when we circle back to this in about 10
I'm going to write these down, too.
You're going to write these down? Okay, no pressure.
I'm going to circle back on this.
Okay.
Shout out Jen Psaki.
Okay. Kyle Larson. We'll go Ryan Blaney.
Okay.
Chase Elliott. Oh, boy. And Kyle Busch.
Okay.
Those are
and
my
your
4.
champion is?
Chase Elliott goes back-to-back.
Ooh. Okay. All right, David, give me your final 4 and your champion.
Larson and Blaney, Hamlin, Busch, and Larson champion.
Okay.
Well, and Tyler, before you really say your picks, I got to put you on the spot here and just kind of flip this back on you. Before we came on air talking on the show tonight, you were saying you really liked how the 34's chances of advancing to the playoffs were good. Where does he fall in your prediction?
I hope, just for entertainment purposes and because Michael's a good guy, that Michael McDowell can win the championship and make the Final 4, but that's not realistic. I think Michael's going to end up being eliminated after the first round, but we'll be rooting on Michael McDowell. He's a great guy. He's had a career here.
He's a great guy, great race car driver. And man, I've really been pleasantly surprised on how good they've been running here lately,
Mm-hmm.
man. A very competitive team, and Michael's done a heck of a job. And, man, I love to see Michael McDowell. Would that be cool? Would that be a great Cinderella story for our sport? If Michael McDowell could make it to the Final 4, that would be amazing.
He'll have a shot at Talladega and the Charlotte Roval. Those two tracks right there. We know he can run up front. And then we'll just see. They've had 26 weeks now to sell sponsorship for these playoffs too. You would think that they've probably got some more money maybe raised for these races than maybe the others. So who knows? We know Michael's a talented race car driver. We're going to be rooting him on, though.
Well, I think to balance all that out, too. I mean, you look at the first 3 races, right? 3 different kinds of tracks, super speedway, road course, and intermediate, and he knocked off top 10s at all of them. He's run top 20 solidly throughout the first 26 races of the year. Who's not to say McDowell runs consistent like he did? in that first round of 16. And other guys have misfortune. McDowell's quietly finishing 12th to 16th every week, and he advances to the round of 12. And then, like you said, Tyler, that opens it up at the Roval. That opens it up at Talladega. There's some opportunity.
So my final four, I got Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney. I had to take Denny Hamlin as much as I've talked about him. And then I'm going to go Chase Elliott to make it. I went back and forth between Elliott and William Byron. William Byron has had a sneaky good season.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, he hasn't gotten the wins, but he's been running up front every week. I believe in pure points, he's third. He's had a heck of a year. But I think that Elliott's more of a closer. This is more of his time. I like him to get there, and I'll go Larson, my champion. And staying in the Hendrick camp, one more sleeper for you guys. Why is no one giving Alex Bowman any credit? Everyone in the mainstream media seems to have forgotten about Alex Bowman. This guy won 3 races this year. He's run well everywhere. I know that he hasn't been Kyle Larson, but he's been better than Chase Elliott. I wouldn't sleep on Alex Bowman. I think he could maybe do some damage. And there's some tracks ahead, Dominic, that are really good for Alex Bowman here, including Richmond.
Yeah, exactly. He won the Richmond race out in May, and we know he's a very great short track racer. And you look at the ticker any given week, right? And it seems like Bowman maybe isn't talked about a lot because he's the 4th running Hendrick car, but he's running in the top 10. I mean, to be the quote unquote worst Hendrick driver and you're still running in the top 10 and top 5 consistently, he's going to piece together a very well playoff run here, I think. And you're right, Tyler. I think a lot of people do sleep on him.
Yeah. So there you have it. Those are our playoff picks for the NASCAR playoffs that get started this weekend at Darlington. Real quick on Darlington, David, the lady in black, the Darlington stripe, so much history there. We've seen some great racing as of late, too. What are you expecting out of Darlington to open up these playoffs?
Man, you said it, the lady in black, man. It's always exciting, and it's always a great race, but tough racetrack, always has been. And there's a new element there. They've actually repaved the racetrack, starting in the middle of turns 1 and 2 and coming off turn 2. I mean, it's very, very treacherous coming off. I mean, man, when you go into turn 1, I mean, you're almost wide open. You get out of the gas, you go back to it, you climb the hill, you're up against the wall. At the last minute, you turn off the wall. And, man, when you turn off the wall, that thing better be set up right, man, because it's very bumpy over there. I mean, it's such a challenging racetrack. And I guess over the years, the racetrack deterioration of the weather has deteriorated turns 2 so bad. And it was really rough the last time we raced there earlier this year, that they decided to go ahead and repave turns, I think the middle of turns 1 and 2 to the exit of turn 2, So I think new pavement there is going to actually add another element of unknown because, new pavement, we don't know if it's got grip or no grip. And, man, it's going to be an exciting race like it always is, but we're adding another unknown to Darlington, but it's still going to be the lady in black, man. It's going to reach out and bite you. Just, you almost got to just race the racetrack. And sometimes you start racing other competitors and the racetrack will reach out and bite you. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a tough old racetrack and it's going to be exciting, man. And I know the fans there in that part of the country, man, they love their NASCAR. So, man, it's going to be a great weekend of racing again.
And Dominic, a couple of weeks ago, we were at an intermediate track in Michigan, which everybody said raced like a super speedway. Now we go to an intermediate track in Darlington that races the opposite, more like a short track.
I would say so, right? Because, I mean, and David can certainly give more insight on this too, but I mean, the 2 corners are completely different, right? Turns 1 and 2, I believe you can hold it a little more wide open. Turns 3 and 4, you got to really break it down, especially if you're in a cup car, right? With a little more horsepower. But yeah, the 1.33 mile track that is Darlington, South Carolina. I got to say, Tyler, I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's an amazing facility. I hope you get the chance to go if you've never been.
Yeah, I've never been. I'd love to see it, but should be a lot of fun Sunday on a Labor Day weekend from Darlington. Guys, let's go ahead and get to our news and notes segment. But before we do, just a reminder that the folks at Whataburger cook up 100% pure beef burgers 24 hours a day. You can get your burger fix anytime, day or night at Whataburger. Proud to serve hot and fresh 24 hours a day, baby. Let's go ahead and Dominic, news and notes time. Big news for Kurt Busch. The worst kept secret is out.
The worst kept secret. Well, yeah, that is one of the worst kept secrets, right? Which one are we talking about? That Kurt's going to 23-11 racing, or the fact that the numbers are moving forward? You go a couple ways with that, right?
One of them pisses off people more than the other.
Exactly, right, depending on who you ask, right? But on Friday, August 27th, 2311 Racing announced that Kurt Busch will join the organization in 2022 and expand to a two-car Cup Series organization. Kurt Busch, the 2004 NASCAR Series champion, will be joined with Bubba Wallace in his second year with the team. He is partnering up with Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan at the team. Monster Energy is expected on partnership there, and as well as the numbers moving about 18 inches forward, more along, not on the door side, but more towards the front of the car.
David, what's your reaction to Kurt Busch joining 2311? Let's start there.
Man, hey, you said Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin. I can assure you when Michael Jordan made the decision to be a team owner in NASCAR, he wasn't playing. He wanted to win. They have, they got an alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing. They have the best equipment money can buy, best engines, best engineering. They have the best of all of it. Any driver's dream would be to drive for that team. And, Kurt Busch, a proven champion, a proven winner. And man, they have big plans for Kurt Busch and Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin. Man, they're going to come out. They want to win races. They're going to be a championship contender. And man, I'm excited about that organization, because I know they're new in the sport, but man, I think we're going to see lots of good things happening there for 2022. And man, you mentioned something I thought was kind of interesting, moving the number forward on the sides of the race cars. We've been doing this, guys, for a long time, been racing cars, and the number was always centered of the passenger side door and the driver's side door. To have that number move forward is a little bit foreign to me because, ever since I was a little boy, the numbers always went on the side of the doors. You know what I mean? So a lot of big changes in our sport for 2022. And Tyler, you just mentioned one of them, the number moving forward, so it's going to be a lot different, take a while to get used to. But, if we can showcase our sponsors more, give them more space on the race car and make their names bigger. And I'm all about that, man, because everybody knows, and you guys know, especially if we don't have great partners, there's no racing. So I guess there's a good thing there in moving the number forward.
Yeah, it looks unnatural, but I'm sure it'll just take time for all of us to adapt. But on the side of 2311, Dominic, this is a team, it's no secret, they haven't had the success that they were hoping for in 2021. And now you bring in a guy in Kurt Busch who's won with every manufacturer. I know it's been a while since he's really been a contender for a championship, but for a team that's trying to build for its future and trying to win races and get in a veteran that knows this sport and such, I don't think they could have found a better guy for this situation than Kurt Busch.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And just look at the resume of Kurt Busch over the last years, right? Let's go back to 2011, right? He loses that right at Team Penske, goes on to Phoenix Racing in 2012, takes that car, it was running 30th every week, made it about a 15th to 20th place race car. He goes on to Furniture Racing in 2013, right? A team that had gotten the win at Darlington with Regan Smith. But Kurt Busch takes him to the playoffs for the first time. Double-digit top fives, won a couple of poles, didn't win a race, but then goes on to Stewart-Haas Racing in 2014. The addition of him and Kevin Harvick just elevating Stewart-Haas Racing as a whole. Continues with that organization. And then the most recent stop at Chip Ganassi Racing, right? Jamie McMurray, a talented race car driver, but wasn't running top 10 every week like how Kurt Busch is. I think Kurt Busch is just this known guy, right? You go to teams and you build them and you make them a little bit better. We're going to see 23-11 racing, in my opinion, maybe improve overnight. I think we're going to see that team go from finishing 15th and 20th every week to seeing, okay, Kurt Busch is in here now. We've got a 2-car organization. Kurt's going to be running up front. I would not be surprised. He'll make the playoffs next year, and he'll probably win a race as well.
Yeah. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer for a reason. And, this is also an interesting note, David. This is about the closest that he and his brother have ever been to teammates, too.
Yeah, that's true. I know they're brothers, but it is. You brought up a good point, Tyler. I mean, we know that 2311's having their race cars. They're built by Joe Gibbs Racing, and the last I have with Joe Gibbs. I mean, it is the closest that Kurt and Kyle are ever going to be. I think in their racing career as teammates. You know what I mean? They'll be working together, that's for sure. But I can assure you on the racetrack that they don't cut each other any slack, man. Those guys, they're tough competitor warriors on the racetrack. But man. Two very, very talented Hall of Famers right there. And I think you said it best. I believe we're going to see the 2311 team elevated big time for 2022. I think like Dominic said, they're going to be a championship contender, I believe, right away, just getting Kurt Busch, because his capabilities and just one heck of a race car driver. And that Michael Jordan, I mean, the world's largest, most recognizable athlete in the world. I mean, he's all about winning. And man, I know, with these last 10 races, as Bubba Wallace doesn't get a win, that's not going to set well with Michael Jordan. When you got all the sponsors you could ever want, all the money in the world, and Joe Gibbs Racing aligned with, I mean, that's a team that I know it's a new team and they're building for the future. But, I can assure you, I don't know Michael Jordan. I haven't talked to him. I've seen him at the racetrack, but, he's a winner, and he'll tell you he's a winner, and he wants to win now. You know what I mean? And I think the best chance for them to do that will be in 2022 with Kurt Busch.
Yeah, I think you're right. Dominic, what else we got going?
Well, as some other team news that we got going on, Brad Doherty, co-owner of JTG Doherty Racing, announced on an NBC Zoom call August 31st that JTG Doherty will be returning to a one-car full-time organization starting in 2022. As we know, the 37 team ran as an open team this year. Ryan Preece running 26th in points as of Daytona. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has been the staple driver at the 47 team now for the last 2 seasons. And it is expected that JTG Doherty might make an announcement later on in the season, but no word yet on who could be driving their car for next season.
David, what's your reaction to that? JTG has had some success over the years, but maybe not what they would have liked, comparably speaking, to a few years back. What say you as far as focusing in on one operation? This might not be a bad thing for those guys.
You just gotta, you gotta look at your resources and your financial, the financial side of your organization, and sometimes it's cheaper to run 2 cars, but, I was surprised when I heard the news about, Doherty going down to 1 car. And, and I don't know much about this charter system, but, you don't know if they own both charters or one's leased. There's a lot of rules and regulations on these charters that I'm not familiar with. And there might be a stipulation in there that, has something to do with the charter where they don't have a choice, even though they might have both cars fully funded in 2022, but without a charter, 2 charters, I don't know, you know what I mean? But very surprised that they're going to go down to a 1-car operation because, for you guys know as well as I do that having a 2 or 3 car team is what the future's all about. You know what I mean? And especially with a new car coming in 2022, learning, just having the resources and the data from this new car, you think that the teams that have multiple cars in an organization are really going to benefit from the knowledge learned at each race. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of surprised, really surprised to see an organization like this go down to 1 car. And I don't, it's all speculation, but why is that? You know what I mean?
Well, and I'll add this in too, David. This sport is such an arms race, right? For the last several years, we've talked about Hendrick, JGR, Stewart-Haas, and Penske being the elite teams, just dominating things. And then the next tier, your RCRs, Roush, Wood Brothers. Well, now you got, 2311, Trackhouse, Colleague. I mean, Spire has been decent this year. We know they got a good driver in Corey LaJoie. JTG, they're looking now, they have a new challenge of just trying to keep up with all those teams. It was kind of just, the top four than everyone else. Now you're talking about fighting different tiers of the sport that weren't there before now.
Man, you brought up a good point, and there's a lot of changing going on just right in front of us, but man, the teams you just mentioned, the new teams coming into NASCAR, I mean, they're stout teams with a lot of funding behind them, a lot of great sponsorships, the manufacturing, and there's we can speculate all day long. I'm just curious, it's intriguing to me and interesting. You know what I mean? You just don't really see teams going from a 2-car operation down to one. You know what I mean? I can't remember the last time. It's been a while since we've seen that. You know what I mean? You would think that a 2-car organization, 2-car operation would what it takes to really be to have the resources and to learn the new cars. And I don't know, man, I'm kind of puzzled by it, to be honest with you, so, but you did bring up a good point, Tyler. I mean, there's a lot of, you talked about those 3 new teams coming in, and man, those teams, I mean, they're no slouches,
they're hungry.
Big time, man, big time. So
they're not here to mess around, Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to our Ask David segment, stop by Whataburger for a hot, hearty breakfast any morning or late at night. They're serving up breakfast from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Proud to serve it hot and fresh 24 hours a day. Whataburger. Let's go ahead and get to the questions. First one comes from Johnny. Johnny writes to David. Hi, David. Have you ever met Jerry Jones?
I have met Jerry Jones, man, just living in Dallas, Texas, and being from Houston, Texas. I mean, you can't help but, obviously we all know who the famous Jerry Jones is, but the truth of the matter is going back 2002, 2003, it was an honor to be considered to be one of Jerry Jones's drivers, back in 2002, 3. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but Jerry Jones and the Cowboy organization were very interested in becoming having their own NASCAR team, and having a meeting with Jerry and his staff and some others involved in NASCAR. Ricky Rudd was going to be the other driver. Didn't end up working out like it was planned, and Jerry never ended up coming into NASCAR, but to be part of that process and be considered to be their Busch driver at the time, Xfinity driver, was really cool and unique, and just stuff you can't really understand why it's happening to you, but he's a great guy, and I see him out in public here and there. And last time I saw him out in public, he insisted that me and my wife join him and his wife and some other people to go to a party with them. So, it's kind of cool to have known Jerry and been in some meetings with him. And then when he sees me in public to, want me to come hang out with him. But, I mean, it's just he's done well for the Dallas Cowboy organization, and but to answer your question, yes, I do know Jerry Jones.
Well, and for folks that don't know, David, you live in Frisco, just down the road from the Starr facility, and you're running into some of those Cowboy guys all the time, right? I mean, they kind of hang out in that community.
Well, we see them throughout the community. I live, 2 minutes from the Star, their corporate offices, which is unbelievable that they're complex and what Jerry has built there. But, over the years, My Uncle Mike owns our Team Texas High Performance NASCAR Racing School at the Texas Motor Speedway, and we've had several of the Cowboys join us over the years to come drive a race car, which has been kind of cool, and but man, I'm a big Cowboy, I'm a big NFL fan, and having the Cowboys right here, right beside us, and living in Dallas now, it's been kind of cool to have to cheer for America's team, and just wish one of these years that they would even get remotely close to making it to a Super Bowl.
Indeed. Got another question from the inbox. This one comes from Rick. David, we hear you talk about the driving school. Who are some of the notable names that people might know that have been in your driving school?
Well, when you talk about NASCAR racing school, we're not really people, you think of a racing school, you think that drivers would come through the racing school to get more experience and then move on and be really big names in our industry. But, our NASCAR racing school that we have at the Texas Motor Speedway is kind of like skydiving. It's an experience, you know what I mean? And our sport is grown tremendously over the years, and there we have so many viewers and so many people that love and very passionate about NASCAR racing. When they find out that you can go get in a race car and drive it at 160 miles an hour at the Texas Motor Speedway, and oh, by the way, you're one of 10 cars out there, and you're actually can pass the slower car if you catch them, or somebody's passing you. It's just kind of an experience, and it's a cool experience that people from all over the United States come to Dallas, Texas to come to our racing school and drive our race cars, and we're open to the public once a month, and we do a lot of corporate events. A lot of companies in America, not only just in Texas here, but a lot of companies will bring their customers and bring their employees and kind of reward them. A lot of companies will do incentive programs. Somebody has the most sales, or somebody does this, or somebody does that, and the reward is you get to come to the Texas Motor Speedway and drive a NASCAR race car. So man, it's not so much what guys in NASCAR have come through your racing school, because I would say none of them. But having a NASCAR racing school with real race cars with a real NASCAR racing engine has just been incredible. And my Uncle Mike that built this, and who has had this forever, has just done a tremendous job. And and something I'm proud of, and I'm just proud of what he has built, and the type of racing school we have. It's so cool. Tony Stewart's been using our racing school for 20 years. He loves our race cars. He loves to come drive them. It's just been cool to have all the different people that have come through our racing school, celebrity type people, NFL players, Major League Baseball players, just all the different people.
So who might be the celebrities that come to mind then, or something?
Well, there's been a lot of them, country singers and pop singers, and, just so many different people, and that have been through, that have stopped in and driven our race cars, so it's been a really cool, neat experience over the years, and I'm just proud of what my Uncle Mike has built.
Who is somebody maybe that you'd like to see get in a race car? Like, I don't know why, but for some reason, I'd love to see Garth Brooks in one of your race cars. I think that'd be funny. That'd be cool.
Well, man, no doubt about it. Garth Brooks, or any of them. You know what I mean? It's just anytime you got celebrities to come. One thing, you're not so much stuck on the celebrity that's there, but I love it that people, superstars of other industries, want to come drive a race car. And they're paying attention to NASCAR racing. And that's the cool thing about it. I like to see the fans drive our race cars, and to see, what I love and what I made a living doing for my whole life, and to have them, loving it like I love it. You know what I mean? And the fans that come and drive a race car, and I always love to hear their perspective. It changes their perspective on, they always say, man, I didn't even know what turn I was in, and how do you do that for 500, 400 miles? And he said, man, it's not as easy as it looks, but I love the people when they get to experience what we get to do week in and week out. It's really a great experience, and I love it.
Yeah, we won't let Dominic touch the race car. He'd put that thing in the wall, but we'll let that slip by.
Absolutely.
With that being said, guys, we got to run. What a fun show today. I know we didn't have a guest on this week, but we had plenty to discuss as the NASCAR playoffs get started this weekend. As always, subscribe to Let's Go Racing with David Starr. New episodes out each and every Wednesday, part of the Studio Soapbox Network on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review or don't leave us one at all. Hit that like button as well. And follow us on Twitter at Star Podcast, Facebook.com / David Starr Podcast, and by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. Before we go, Dominic, what's going on this week at the Racing Experts?
Well, we're just going to continue to cover the sport. Always a shout out to Jonathan Fjeld. He's a guy that's really been stepping up for us since the beginning, but especially this year with his coverage, helping us make sure we're staying on status and relevant in the sport. So, Jonathan, I know you're watching, you listen every week, so we appreciate you. And yeah, we'll just continue covering the sport. We'll have our Kyle Stevens out there shooting photos for us. Should be a great race weekend.
David, what's the next few days look like for you leading up to Darlington?
Man, it's been a crazy week so far, and it's only Tuesday. Today I woke up, went to Whataburger this morning, and had me a Whataburger Junior, and then came back, worked a little bit in my office, had to hurry and get over to the Texas Motor Speedway. One of our sponsors, Connect Us. We had a big, long interview today, and then made it back home just in time to go watch my son, DJ. He played his first football game today, scored 2 touchdowns tonight. That was really cool. Tomorrow, catching up on trying to finalize some sponsors for future races. Tomorrow, got a couple meetings there, but looking forward to getting to Darlington. We'll be leaving Friday morning from Dallas, headed to Darlington to race there Saturday afternoon. But man, I'd like to circle back a little bit before we get off the air this evening and talk about just the sponsors we had this weekend. Without Whataburger, man, I couldn't race in the Xfinity Series. And not only Whataburger, Striping Technologies, Stevie Lumber Company, T-Top Manufacturing, my great friend Mark Tate, and Hell of a Ranch, Bo Carpenter, and just Davis Wrecker Service, Cantera Design Builders. We're on my Xfinity car this weekend at Daytona that makes all this possible. Then you look at our partners we had on our Cup car for Saturday night. Man, that was just an awesome race. But Midwest Mobile Tech, my good friend Mark, jumped on board with us. State and Flurry Racing Stables. Again, Mark Tate, T-Top Manufacturers, just been a big supporter of us this year. And Ticket Smarter, if you need any kind of tickets for a concert or any major sporting events, you can go to ticketsmarter.com and buy your tickets there. But just we really hadn't talked about it, but just all the partners and sponsors that allow us to do what we love to do and take advantage of everything the sport has to offer. You're just so thankful for them. So I don't really ever talk about all our different partners, but man, we got some great partners. Obviously, Whataburger, who was one of our partners on our podcast here. Man, I couldn't race without them, and be able to go over there twice a day and eat breakfast and eat lunch, and then to have them on our race car, man, that's just man, I still feel like I'm gonna wake up one day. It was just all a dream, but pretty cool stuff,
Oh yeah. Ticket Smarter. Right now, I'm online buying tickets to Machine Gun Kelly as we speak. So,
awesome,
on so there you have it. We got to go. Got to put the checkered flag out on this episode of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Thanks for joining us, folks. We'll be back here next week for Dominic, Aragon, David Starr, and Tyler Jones. So long. This has been another edition of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. We'll see you next time.